welcome. And thank you. So, yeah, as he said, my name is John Juvenile. I'm 30 plus years in the septic and portable toilet business, which is triple B. I don't know. This is the second conference I've been to where they're talking about the national struggles for waste haulers to have places to unload their trucks and the complications that come with that, typically at wastewater treatment plants. So our topic today is when the wastewater treatment plant says no, and this is talking about our journey to the Cleanwater Farm. I just coined that phrase so that we could use it for marketing. And then we show up for these NOWRA shows, and we were over at UWA in Oklahoma, and I was like, well, evidently other people need to hear our story. So I am supposed to tell you that these are not the opinions of NOWRA, they're mine. And I will tell you that I think probably the most often question I've been asked since we've been here is, this is just a concept or an idea, right? No, what I'm telling you today is 5 years of track record of us doing our own waste hauling and processing on our own farm. So I'm not talking to you about just ideas. This is a proven concept that we've already been using for quite some time now. You guys, I'm sure that if you're in the septic and portable toilet industry, where we live, the population is growing so fast that our infrastructure is not keeping up. And the first thing they chop off when they need more capacity is the waste haul. And so my partner and I were experiencing that well over 10 years ago. And we would build one place and they would run out of capacity. And so then we'd find another place and do a deal with them. And after about 4 or 5 years of doing that, we said, okay, that's enough. If our trucks are full, we're out of business, right? So we've got to find a solution where we can vertically integrate and do this on our own, so we can never have a phone call from the wastewater treatment plant saying you can't come here anymore. So that's what we've been working on. You guys have probably dealt with it. We were dealing with, well, we can only take 500,000 gallons a year from you. Well, we were hauling north of 2 million at that point. So what am I doing with the other 1.5 million gallons? You've got their capacity issues. We had one place where we were doing a bulk haul. They had a lagoon that was failed and they needed a pipe to go over to the main treatment plant. It took them 3 years to get that done. And I said, okay, we'll do that. And we gave them a price, but I said, I want to be able to bring 10,000 gallons down in the morning to our waste, dump it at your treatment plant, and then started doing the bulk haul 6 miles back and forth from that lagoon. They agreed to that. But the day they turned that pipe on, they had added a whole bunch more houses to that subdivision when they were immediately over capacity at the plant. So we got a call that afternoon saying, hey, you can't come back tomorrow. So, you know, we were just facing all these issues that I think you guys have probably experienced it, where we had one municipality that would only allow us to bring septic from their or portable toilet waste. They wanted us to just pump out the portable toilets in their city and a tank in their city, and then they made us buy ticket books, and we had to pay for either half a truckload or a complete truckload. Well, the math doesn't math. And when you're driving a 3,600 gallon tanker truck and you've only got 1,000 gallons on there, but you got to pay for a half of the truck, it just doesn't math. So that's why we were forced to find something to be able to fix our problem. Now, this is a map view. Our operations center is in Rogers, Arkansas. We've got plenty of room. We've actually got a sewer tap right here that we could tie on to. So my partner and I were like, okay, well, what if we de-water at our facility? And what if we allow the solids, the dried solids, we can do something with that. But the liquid, the effluent, we could let that go to the city. Well, we tried to go to the planning commission, and this Pre-K and Kick Trail Harley and the car, anybody ever heard of NIMBY? Not in my backyard? Yeah, that was what we were facing. So we were shut down at every front at doing it at our own facility. So we went outside of town about 10 miles and we found 13 acres that was going to be beautiful. But when the city mayor found out that we were going before the city council to get approval to buy this property, he put out on Facebook that we were going to be putting a sewage dump around all these people's houses, even though there was ravines on both sides of the property and an interstate at the back. Anybody ever seen Young Frankenstein? You know, where all the villagers show up with torches and pitchforks? That's what that city council meeting. It's the most well-attended city council meeting in the history of that town. And it was all because they didn't want our shit. So, what we decided to do, again, you can't make money if you're spending your time going to the wastewater treatment plant, you're waiting, and then you got to drive all the way back. We ended up having to go about 45 to 50 minutes out of town. I've got 15 trucks between my portable toilet trucks and my septic trucks, and I don't want each truck having to drive an hour one way to go dump. And my wife and I do real estate investing as well. So I started finding these little cubby holes around the county where it was just the right situation. One of them, for instance, it's about an acre and a half. It's got a 3,000 square foot metal building on it with a fenced-in area. I rent that out for about $2,000 a month to somebody else. There's a little corner down in a ravine that I can use for our company, could be a depot. They pay me $2,000. My payment on that property is $750 a month. So I found different properties like that where I can set up depots that were close to where our trucks are working, and there's no regulations against depots because nobody's ever done it before. Understand what I'm saying? So we ended up finding an 80-acre farm that they were already land applying on with animal byproduct, and so I knew that I'd already jumped over a land application permit, and I just figured out to put the depots around, and then we use a bulk truck to pick up from those depots around the counties, and that one truck spends his time taking completely full loads out to our farm. Now, we use two different modes, and this has been another kind of confusing thing. You know, we think in pictures, right? If I say cat, you don't think about C-A-T, you think about a little furry ant. If I say house, you don't think about H-O-U-S-E, you think about the place you live. Our struggle in talking about this has been, as I start to talk about what we're doing, people don't have the pictures to be able to relate to the words that we're telling. You've heard all this stuff before, but it's not been put together that we've seen in the fashion that we've done it. So I'm just hoping to share some ideas with you. So our one part of our process, we're hauling about 4.5 million gallons a year now. Part of that, half of that, we'll say, I've got about 20 acres, and with the health department setbacks, these are houses. You have to stay at least 1,000 feet off of any house. There's another house that's up here. So literally, I could only land apply. This is our fence line right here. So I can only land apply on this area right here. The rest of it I can't use of the 80-acre farm. But in that, because of how we're straining and cleaning our water before we go to the farm, we never have any trash, we never have any odor. It's 100%. In fact, all of our neighbors now want us to land apply on their land so they can get the kind of hay that we get. And when we get to the farm, we've got this massive, with flotation tires, tank truck on it. And we use that to go out through the field so we don't compact the soil when we're going out through the field. I'm kind of running fast because I've only got 20 minutes, so I want to get down to it. The second part of what we do for the other half of the wastewater that we haul in, we've got tanks underground, and we process through an in-the-round dewatering unit. We've chosen the in-the-round because if you do one of the ones where they have dumpsters like from Float Tree under Aquazine, once you put your dewatered solids in there, it literally takes about a week for that stuff to dry out to where it's actually dewatered. Whereas with the in-the-round unit, we can blend with polymer, get those solids magnetizing to each other, and then we turn a switch on right here, and this massive chain, that drum just rolls around about 2 revolutions through the night. When we come in the morning, it's all ready to unload. All the water has been released from the solids. Now this is where some of my infiltrator buddies are going to get a shout out. So, you know, all of us deal with approved products list on the septic with the health department, right? Or on the ADEQ. Arkansas allows Xerxes tanks. They do not allow frac tanks. This would have been a lot easier for me to do at the farm to create this massive septic system if I could have used frac tanks, but I couldn't. So I found the supplier for Xerxes tanks. And that hole doesn't look very big, but it cost me about 45 grand to have that hole dug and have those tanks set. It's a massive hole. And then this, ladies and gentlemen, is about 3,600 feet of infiltrator chambers. We chose infiltrator because if you fill up a glass with ice and then you try to pour tea in there, you can only get so much tea in, right? But if you keep that glass empty, you get a whole lot more volume. The chambers, from what I understand, they hold 3 times the amount of water as a pipe and gravel system. Even though Arkansas doesn't accept the reduction in the amount of feet that we needed, we knew that it would technically give us 3 times the capacity in that field, so we wouldn't have any issues. So the dewatering facility is up here. Those tanks are under the ground right here. Side note, if you're my age and you ever wanted to order a day-old dove or quail from Sears catalog when you were a kid, this building right here is the farm that they were hatched and mailed out of. So that's just a side note. But we've got a field with 4 zones in it. We weren't done yet. The field actually continued on up to here. And then, so every day after we dewater, we've got dosing systems in that tank that send the water out. We can do 5,000 gallons a day of water out in that field. And we've been in operation now for 5 years. 0 issues, 0 breakout, 0 complaints. Every time we get our soil test done, it's a backup. We are in the process of trying to increase our capacity because we've grown a lot as a company. So one of the things that we're doing is now we're going, health department in Arkansas only allows 5,000 gallons a day. If it goes over that, it automatically goes to DEQ. So we wanted to stay in the beginning under that 5,000. Now we need to go over it. So we've got an environmental consultant that's going to help us do an application so we can actually put in another 4,000 feet of infiltrator chambers, which would double that capacity to 4 million on that field. We also have a customer that wants to buy, wants us to grow about 20,000 arborvitae, which is an evergreen tree for landscape. We want to be able to grow those 20,000 trees using the effluent that comes off our dewatering system and use drip irrigation to put water to the trunk of every tree that's out in the field. Another revenue stream, using the water that's just going to go down through the soil to create another cash flow stream for us. We also use the field that we land apply on. We use that to grow hay for our livestock, which my wife and I and our family, we grow beef cattle as well. So again, I said, you know, this is not just an idea. This is a proven success pattern that we've been on. 5 years, no problem, excellent soil testing. Like I said, our neighbors all want us to be able to land apply on their land so they can get as much hay cutting as we can. This is just an example of what our depots look like. We're actually here as exhibitors under Viper Waste. We had to form a new company. We built this machine because when we were trying to dewater, all the hair and fabric strands and trash was getting caught in our impellers, and it was shutting down our dewatering process. So to clean the wastewater stream out, we designed this machine to where we can unload our trucks, and it filters as soon as it comes out of our truck, so that immediately from the truck going all the way out to the farm, we've got it cleaned up as much as it can be. And the only thing that left is just the suspended solids in the wastewater stream. There's no trash or debris. The holes in that are 3/16 of an inch, so very small. And if you look at a normal bar screen, you're going to have 3/4 of an inch between each bar. That was way too much for us, so we put extra bars in. That was still not tight enough, so we made this vibratory screen and put stainless steel filters in there that have 3/16 holes in a pegboard fashion. This is how a typical depot is set up, where the waste hauler backs up, puts into this red hose. The machine is here, and then there's a pump behind it that pulls out of that catch tank and puts it in the frac tank to be held at our depots. And then our bulk truck will come by. If we're going to do plan A, where we're going to land apply, then we have another storage facility next to that, of just another stored shipping container. And we store hydrated lime in bags. And so if we're going to land apply, usually about 2 bags of hydrated lime gets the pH up over 12, kills all the pathogens, the bacteria, and the odor. And then it's sloshing around in the truck for 50 minutes while it goes out to our farm to be land applied. If it's not going to be dewatered, if we're going to plan B, if it's not going to be land applied, if it's going to be dewatered, then he doesn't add the hydrated lime. He just pulls a full load, makes the trip out to the farm, and drops it in one of two 20,000 gallon tanks underground to await the dewatering process. This is what our solids look like after the dewatering process. Right now, currently, we've got a loop, and the only piece we have open still is what to do with our biosolids. Right now, we take it to a landfill, but what are we, it's only like 3 years into the planning process and vetting and figuring out and traveling around, looking at machines. And we're probably about 12 months away from turning dirt on our own biochar facility, where we will use pyrolysis to turn all of our solids. And wait for this, how many of you guys are tired of paying the wastewater treatment plants? How many of you would like to make them pay you? Guess what? They're having problem getting rid of their biosolids as well. And now you're hearing about PFAS and microplastics and pharmaceuticals. Well, we've already got feedstock agreements that municipalities are going to pay us to take all their biosolids and turn that into biochar as well. Because we don't create enough solids to keep a pyrolysis machine running 24/7, that's what you've got to do. So in order to get enough of that to where we